but I'll introduce Kevin and both Rick as well, who's here with him from the Ash Creek Conservation Association. Kevin lives in Black Rock and is a small business owner of KB Dive Services, which specializes in maintaining boats underwater and marine services. He has 14 years in business, getting to know the local marine environment firsthand through his work. In 2019, he helped Black Rock become part of the Unified Water Study. He's a volunteer coordinator and captain for the Unified Water Study. He is thankful for the opportunity to document our local harbor and give back. Kevin is a Connecticut native who went to Greenwich High School and the University of Vermont. He pursued professional snowboarding and was close to the 2002 Salt Lake Olympics. Kevin, I'm assuming that means you were going to be a participant in potential participant in the Olympics.
We were trying to be, yeah.
He enjoys photography, documentaries, saving old boats, and spending time with his dogs. Also with Kevin is Rick Landau, who has worked in all aspects of manufacturing for the same New Haven company for 46 years. Rick moved to the Black Rock section of Bridgeport 5.5 years ago. He lives near Black Rock Harbor, where he enjoys walking his dogs on the beach and kayaking. He has become very concerned with the poor water quality. He recently joined the board of directors of the Ash Creek Conservation Association, where he chairs the Unified Water Study Committee. So I'll turn it over to Kevin and Rick now.
Thank you very much, Nick. Appreciate that. And on behalf of the Ash Creek Conservation Association, we really wish to thank you and Bob and the entire Rotary Club for inviting us here, giving us the opportunity to inform you on the work we're doing with the Unified Water Study. As chair of the committee, I act as a liaison between Kevin and the board. Kevin is the project leader, and he has been the person who has made this happen for us for the last 2 years. My presentation froze. Great. Hold on a second. Let's see if I can see what happened over here. Love technology. All right.
Rick, I have to. Do you know? Have you done this before? Do you know how to share screen?
I have done it. Yes.
Okay.
That's right. I'm not sharing my screen. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need to make you a co-host first.
Thank you.
Okay.
I forgot something important. Let me go back.
Also
one
make
slide first.
Kevin
Kevin
a co-host.
Sorry about that. Okay.
Yeah, basically Rick's doing all the sharing on his screen.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Share screen. Share screen. Well, it worked before. That's not good. Oh, I know. I need to.
There you go.
Are
There
you
we
seeing
go,
the
Rick.
presentation, or you?
Yeah, we see it.
That's for first page. Yep.
Okay. I'm not getting the view that I want to over here, but I'll look over there. So I'll be looking over this way. I already read my spiel for the first slide here. So Ash Creek Association is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to protecting the Ash Creek tidal estuary. Since Long Island Sound and Black Rock Harbor mix their collective waters with Ash Creek, where they're integral to the health of the creek.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, Nick and Bob. Good to be joining everyone today. Yeah, basically just want to introduce you to how the Unified Water Study got started and how we joined it. Basically, because of the water quality in the harbor, residents were starting to post pictures, and it drew some interest. And our council person at the time, Pete Spain, reached out to Save the Sound and the Aquaculture School. One of the teachers there, Holly Turner, was very important in recruiting students to help out. Their efforts combined with Captain's Cove, Bruce Williams, and Santa Fuel was a major backer in helping get this study off the ground. We created a Facebook page, which you see here. It's Black Rock Harbor Study. You can just go ahead and like it. and we hope to basically post and capture what we see on the water and ways to get involved. So we're going to be showing some slides as we go, and you can ask questions as we go or at the end. Oh, and yeah, just wanted to say that our first year in the study was last year, 2019. We started in May through October. That's when the study runs. We did 276 volunteer hours last year. This year, due to COVID, we were only able to, it was cut a month short. So we did 10 samplings and there was 200 volunteer hours. And Rick's going to talk about what the study consists of.
So I'll tell you a little bit about what we do. We've participated for the first 2 years so far. We've participated in tier 1 of the study. So what do we study? We collect data on the water quality. We do this May through October, as Kevin said, each year. People involved are Kevin and myself and students, student interns from the Aquaculture School, which is right in Captain's Cove, which is where we're based out of. So that works out really great. It's a really good opportunity for the kids and it's very helpful for us. We couldn't do it without them. And the reason we do it is to collect data that on the water quality, which is quite poor in Black Rock Harbor. And it allows us to, gives us ammunition to go and put pressure on the city and other agencies to try and improve the water quality. So Unified Water Study was started about 5 years ago when Save the Sound realized they had ample data on the water quality of the sound, but it was impossible to really compare the water quality of the various harbors and bays because everybody was testing it differently. There was no, it wasn't a unified effort. So but they developed a plan that each segment could use the same standard operating procedures, the same protocols, and the exact same equipment calibrated the same way so that the data could be compared. And you'll see later on, we have comparisons. So this is Long Island Sound. It shows the various embayments that are participating in the study currently. Black Rock Harbor is kind of in the middle of your picture over there. So all these different sites are participating just as we are.
Okay, so yeah, that last graphic of all the participating groups, it means a lot that now our harbor joins them, and our harbor is also being documented as part of the water study. It was a team effort to get here. So basically, where do we test? There were 6 randomly generated stations. We met with Save the Sound and narrowed that down to what stations were feasible. So we'll start with station number 1. That's all the way up at the end of the harbor by Santa Fuel and Sikorsky. Station number 2 is just past Resco and Cedar Marina. Station number 3 is right in the heart of Cedar Creek, basically. Station number 4 is in the center of the channel, basically in the center of the harbor. Station 5 is closer to the fishing pier at Seaside Park by Fairweather Island, and Station 6 is by St. Mary's. So our data shows that there's a wide range of results depending where we're testing.
So as I said, the past 2 years, we've been involved in tier 1 of the study, which the data we collect is measuring dissolved oxygen, turbidity, chlorophyll A, qualitative macrophytes, temperature and salinity, and we'll give you a brief description of what each one of those means. We're going to try not to make this a technical discussion. As we've said, the project runs May through October, and we input all the data into the database by November. For Tier 1, it requires bi-weekly sampling events where we go out on the boat to those stations that Kevin showed you. And that's where we do our sampling, as well as 3 macrophyte surveys mid-season, which we'll show you what that means. We have some exciting news. Just this morning, we received preliminary approval from Save the Sound to upgrade to Tier 2, which is much more involved. It involves weekly sampling. It involves everything done in Tier 1, plus all the Tier 2 work, which is shown here. I won't go into the details now of what that entails, but it's about 3 times as much work. It requires more manpower and more funds. So we're very excited about it. It shows that we've done a good job for the first 2 years, and they felt, Save the Sound felt that has confidence in us to be able to move up. So briefly, how do we do the sampling? What you're seeing here is called a sonde, S-O-N-D-E. It's a cylinder that we drop into the water at the specific stations. We take measurements at each station, 1/2 meter from the bottom of the water and 1/2 meter from the surface. The water flows through the sonde, and through that cord that's attached to this handheld computer, we get readouts of the water quality for the different parameters we're testing. And then we record it on these data sheets manually. Afterwards, this data gets collected and input into the collective database that Save the Sound maintains. And in this way, the scientists at Save the Sound are able to compare the data from all the different embayments with the exact same protocols. So it's very meaningful data. So as I mentioned, we measure for dissolved oxygen, which when low dissolved oxygen can stress many aerobic organisms, and it can result in fish kills, as you see here, which is obviously something we really like to avoid. And unfortunately, we have that problem in Black Rock Harbor of low dissolved oxygen. Turbidity is a measurement of water clarity. Chlorophyll A is a green pigment found in chloroplasts of plants. Too much of it can lead to things like algae blooms, which lead to hypoxia. Qualitative macrophytes, we're going to show you some pictures of that, but essentially we attach a rope to a rake, and we do this 3 times during the summer. We go to 3 specific sites each time. We throw our rake into the water, pull it out, and we observe, we take photos and observe the type of seaweed, the color, the quantity, and things like that. Kevin will explain a little bit more of that later when we go through the photos. We measure the temperature of the water, the salt content. And Kevin's going to take over and explain some of the photos that we've taken from the past year.
Okay, so thanks, Rick. Yeah, basically the first year in the water study, we used the aquaculture boat with their captains, but this year with COVID, that wasn't an option. We used my work boat. It limited the number of students we could take on board to 2 to 3 max. Again, this was a delay start this year. We started in June. So here we are, our first sampling beginning of June. It was a real foggy day. We weren't sure we were going to have the sampling, but we went for it. We heard the sun was going to break out, which you'll see. And here the students are. Before we leave the dock, we do our chlorophyll sampling. We take the white bucket, take a scoop of harbor water. We take a syringe with basically a coffee filter inside of it. We run the water through the syringe. All the chlorophyll collects on the coffee filter. That coffee filter gets saved, frozen, and every 2 weeks gets sent to a lab in Brooklyn where it's analyzed. This is Clayton on the right and Sienna on the boat. Sienna, they're both seniors this year at the Aquaculture School. Sienna has been with us for 2 years now. She attended every sampling this year. So this wouldn't happen without the students. We leave so early in the morning because part of the standard operating procedures, we have to do this within 2 hours of sunrise, because once the sun is out, it affects the chlorophyll readings in the water. So we go early to get a baseline reading. And they have to be in school at 8 a.m. So they have their hands full. So yeah, this is departing in the morning here, off into the harbor. There's Clayton. It really is a 2-person job. One person has to operate the sonde and the other person operates the instrument. This is John Fatigate, local resident, who's also doing some documentary work with us. He joined us for the study. And in this picture is also Charlotte Hickey. She was with us both years, and this year she's a freshman at the University of Rhode Island, studying marine science as well. So here's Clayton operating the sonde. Charlotte has the handheld, letting them know where to place it in the water column. Basically, we have to be a 1/2 meter off the bottom and a 1/2 meter from the surface. And we also had another student join us this year. This is Stephen. He was a big help on the boat. It's good to get fresh faces. He's also an amazing photographer. So here the students are up at the end of the harbor using the handheld. And then someone has to record the information. Rick talked about the macrophyte survey, which is basically a rake toss at 3 set spots in the harbor. And once we pull the rake up, we take pictures of the seaweed and classify whether it was some, little, or lots of seaweed, or in some cases none. And it's really interesting how in these 3 different locations there's different types of seaweed, and that's a result of where they are in the harbor and the effects of the nitrogen. Here's just a picture of the anchor with what Black Rock Harbor looks like on the bottom. It's some solid mud, which is good habitat for shellfish. So here's a picture of seaweed that grows when there's high nitrogen. This is basically midway through Black Rock Harbor. So it's sort of, it grows in the zone between the upper and the inner harbor. Grows in high nitrogen loaded areas. This is by Captain's Cove. This is sea lettuce. And again, you can see the density of it. This is only done for 3 weeks during the study in the warmest months of the year, in August. And yeah, we just capture the local wildlife in the harbor. We've got 3 pairs of resident ospreys. This is the one in Cedar Creek at the end of Arthur Street. That's myself and Sienna after coming in from a rake toss event. Okay, this is a crucial picture. This was taken in July. This is what an algae bloom looks like. Black Rock Harbor basically transforms into an algae bloom for 1 to 2 months during the summer, the warmest months. That you can actually see the green and brown color of the water, resulting in all that growth takes oxygen out of the water. This is a dead bunker that you can see, one of many, just to show you the direct results. Here's another pair of ospreys on the Fairweather Lighthouse, the 3rd oldest lighthouse in Connecticut. And resident swan, Clayton's doing the chlorophyll bucket, and Swan had an interest. And Rick joined us this year. Rick not only stepped up and joined us on the boat with our sampling, but he compiled all our data from our clipboard and input it onto spreadsheets for the database with Save the Sound. There's the group at the end of our sampling. And as I said, the students have to be at school by 8. So we leave the dock at 6 and they walk across the parking lot to school. So it's a good setup logistically for them, but the study wouldn't happen without them. Here's Rick using the drop sonde in the harbor. In this picture, we're getting into September, therefore he's got the headlight on his head. We leave before dawn, so we've got to light up the working area so we can see what we're doing. Here we are up at station number 1, Clayton and myself. Here we are coming in. After we come in, we've got to wrench down all the equipment and prepare it for the next time. And there's Sienna and Clayton again. They really, both of them stepped up this year. And here's a picture of the water column. This was in September to show you the amount of bunker density in the harbor. Water temperature was 65 degrees. So the water was starting to cool down a little bit. Peak temperature is right around 70 degrees in August. This is a pre-dawn picture, getting ready to leave. The students really have gotten in a good routine on the boat, and we are looking forward to them joining us again, except they're going to be seniors this year. So we've got to get some other interest in the aquaculture school to join us. We had one nice sunrise. It was our last sampling visit in October, heading out the harbor. And the students enjoy it. They're taking pictures along the way. Clayton, his senior project at Aquaculture School, he was working with dogfish. And in order to catch one, he had to collect bait. This is right below the office at Captain's Cove, where the sewer outflow pipe is. All the bunker congregate because they're basically being fed by what comes out of the pipe. With one cast of his cast net, he reeled in like 75 bunker. It was incredible. Filled up the boat. It was fun cleaning up, but he filled up 2 buckets worth, and he had enough bait for his project with one cast. And so in addition to the drop sonde being used on the boat, we have to do a pre-calibration to get the instrument calibrated. So that takes like an hour to do, and that's done before we go on the boat the day before. And then we also have to do a post-calibration when we return on the boat. One of the changes this year was that Captain's Cove, Bruce, because some of the stores were closed this year, there was a vacancy in one of the jewelry stores at the end. So he let us use that as an office, a centralized location. This is all the equipment, our drop sonde in the hard case, rake, GPS, camera, and all our solutions for the calibration. And Bruce Williams, Captain's Cove, and Tux the cat. Bruce really stepped up with providing us office space and dock space, and has been a supporter since the beginning of the study. Save the Sound, they keep their soundkeeper boat here. Bill Lucy is our current soundkeeper. They don't really monitor what's going on in the harbor as much, but they monitor out in the sound, from the eastern sound to the western sound. They use this boat. And again, a shot of the boardwalk. This was the office we used this past year, which worked out great because with COVID, we could do all our post-calibration work outside on the dock in the open air. And there's Rick compiling some data, shot of the equipment.
And see, it's a
office.
jewelry store that we're our office.
That's right, Black Rock themed jewelry store. It was quite appropriate. And my dogs made the slideshow. They don't come on the boat, but they're happy to be on land. And this is really what we were working towards. This is a Long Island Sound report card. It gets released twice a year, every 2 years. Our efforts in 2019 were reflected in this report card. So it's really rewarding to see our efforts. When the report card was released, we got a front page story on the Connecticut Post, highlighting the work of the water study and the action needed. Okay, so in the water study, we're talking about how is the water. We've got good water quality and poor water quality. So what makes up good water quality is we want obviously clarity in the water, high dissolved oxygen, low chlorophyll A, resulting in like not excessive seaweed growth, and dissolved organic carbon, meaning that when there's a lot of growth in the water, that growth eventually dies and settles and decomposes. So that's organic carbon. Poor water quality is low dissolved oxygen, resulting in hypoxia, high chlorophyll A, resulting in excessive seaweed, and high nitrogen. And water quality in our bays. Yeah, basically there's 50 groups that make up the Unified Water Study between New York and Connecticut. 38 of those are bays. Black Rock Harbor is considered one, and a majority of them, 56%, received failing grades, C, D, or F. Basically, it shows that in the Western Sound, we don't have as much tidal flushing as they do in the East, in Brantford, Guilford areas. So our harbors are sort of choked off from getting flushed, and hypoxia is the biggest side effect of that.
All right, we seem to have blocked again. Come on. Love the technology. Bear with me a moment. Let's see if I can get this going again.
That's the same slide. There we go. And when the report card was released this September, there was a press event. There were two, one in New York. This is the one in Connecticut at the brand new Canal Boathouse in New Haven Harbor, where we released where Save the Sound released the report card. Rosa DeLauro attended it. She's been crucial in securing funding. This is Dr. Jason Krumholtz, who compiles all the data that all the groups submit into the study. And this is Peter Lindroth. He's Director of Water Quality at Save the Sound and runs the Unified Water Study. And here's the report card, 10 best, 10 worst. Black Rock Harbor's third from the bottom on the worst side. We received a D, not for our efforts, but for what we see with our data. And we feel it accurately reflects what we see in the harbor, leaving plenty of room to improve. Rosa DeLauro, myself, and here we have Bill Lucy in the background, our sound keeper. And it was an exciting day to see our efforts actually in print. And here's a historical reference, Eldridge 1895 map of Black Rock Harbor. What's interesting about it is this is before Seaside Park was created. Black Rock Harbor actually had a second opening, which exists beyond where the seawall is at Seaside Park. So there was great tidal flushing in Black Rock Harbor, but that was choked off and Seaside Park was created, leaving one entrance to Black Rock Harbor. So this is an interesting map from 1895. Okay, last year we had investigative journalist Christine Woodside do a 3-part story. It was in the Connecticut Post, Hartford Current. In this picture is Holly Turner, the teacher at Aquaculture School. She helped start the study, and she also recruited the student volunteers to run the study. In the photo is Charlotte and Lyle. Both have graduated now. And again, this talks about the local interest that was involved in creating the Unified Water Study on what we actually see in the water and that what closes our beaches, what caused our call to action. And yeah, in addition to fish kill-offs, this is one of many horseshoe crabs that have expired, a result of hypoxia in the water and also a condition of the sediment and the dissolved organic carbon in the mud. Basically, they choke and can't breathe. Moving on to our waste treatment plant and what makes it up, what it consists of. We've got 4 CSOs, combined sewer outflows. And what those are is in a rain event, when the sewer plant can't handle any more load, raw sewage and rainwater is directly discharged into the harbor. This is a big problem, and it's being addressed in an expansion plan of the WPCA, which we're going to talk about. Yeah, Bridgeport has an east and a west side WPCA waste treatment plant. The west side handles a greater volume, handles all half of Bridgeport's waste, Trumbull's waste, commercial waste, and also residential septic waste. It was built in the 1920s. 1992, there was an upgrade. 2001, there was a nitrogen removal retrofit. And one of the big concerns is the outflow pipe. It was originally designed to go out into the Sound, but it was stopped right below Captain's Cove's office, and that's where it lays. It's a direct stressor to the environment, and to move it would cost like 150 to 200 million, and it's not on the table right now. But right now, the waste treatment plant handles up to 90 million gallons a day. There's 2 proposals on the table to basically keep the plant the size it is and step up what the filtrations are using infrared technology and other technologies. But the other proposal is to increase the flow that comes out of the plant to 200 million gallons a day. So it's extensively doubling what comes out of the plant. This would alleviate the CSO discharge into the harbor. However, we're really doubling what comes out of the plant into our harbor. That's why we're advocating that the sewer pipe be moved. This was a public hearing, and all of our concerns were submitted in the Zoom video and also in writing, and they were addressed. So this is sort of a work in progress. We're not sure what the final result's going to be, but stay tuned for that.
So yeah, oh, sorry, Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and if they do expand the plant, there's a area behind Captain's Cove that's city property that they're going to expand to. So yeah, and Rick will talk about the plan.
Yeah, so the upgrades to the plant are in the planning stages now. Ideally, the west side plant would start the improvements first, starting as early as 2022, hopefully. There is, first of all, neither plant is in compliance with regulations. So the DEP has ordered the city of Bridgeport to make all repairs and upgrades by 2039, which seems like a long way away. There's a current consent order to build the CSO tunnel, but it's not a good solution. As you can see with the CSO tunnel, there's virtually no reduction in the outflow of from CSOs until the tunnel is completed in 2039. So it's really imperative that the upgrades to the treatment plants go through, because if they start construction on the west side plant in 2022, we could start to see improvements as early as 2024, and there would be gradual improvements year to year, so that by the time we got to 2039, the outflow of the volume coming out of the CSOs would be down, very, very low at that point.
Okay, and what can we do to protect the sound? Basically, a reoccurring theme that we're talking about is upgrading the sewer plant and reducing nitrogen in our water, preserve living shorelines, limiting development, using science to measure the health of the sound. The Unified Water Study is one of those tools. And a big thing is investing in the harbor and protecting and restoring stressed waterways. And another call to action is what you can do. Everything that goes down your drain goes to the water treatment plant. So reducing water usage will help lighten the load at the plant. Maintaining sewers, keeping our waterways clean of trash, not just for the way it looks, but also for the marine life. Planting native species and for erosion control. Making your voice heard through advocacy and education, and fertilizer use, reducing or eliminating it because it creates nitrogen load in the harbor.
All right. Well, on behalf of the Ash Creek Conservation Association, of which many of the board members and other members are present on this call today,